Hello and welcome back to another class, my dear students. 欢迎回到另外一节 Business English class. As I've mentioned, we have a total of 16 classes, 4 classes per category, and each category focuses on one topic, usually an issue that you deal with at work. So we are beginning category C, which is timeline pressure. And for today's class, we are going over C1 optimization versus milestones. And the core skill you will learn by the end of this class is recognizing when optimization is happening too early. This is a class that I recently taught one of my students, and I'm sharing here with you guys to hopefully help another student. I tutor students and give one-on-one classes if you are interested as well. Let's begin. Okay, so in this 3-step, usually I would have the student read these steps. So I would say, hey, you know what, let's read these out loud for me, please. And I will pretend you are a live student. So go ahead, please read these out loud. Great. Label, explain the stage, and explain the impact. Excellent. So usually in the beginning of the class, I take a couple minutes to do a warm-up phonics exercise. Most of my students, I'm talking about more than 95%, are Chinese. So I understand some specific pronunciation mistakes that my Chinese students make. So sometimes just to warm up and 可以说是热热我们的嘴巴, I will try to have some phonics practice with my students. Usually the phonics we're currently learning, but sometimes it's specific to the issues that they're dealing with. So today we're going to try a couple of these words. Let's call it a quick drill. And I'm going to put the words on the board for us. Please read these words. Good. And I will be listening and diagnosing you as my student to tell you where maybe you need to improve. So for example, now I'll say, let's repeat after me, please. Cap, cape, kit, keep, full, fool, ship, sheep, code, cud. Good. And then for the words that are more difficult for my particular student, I will ask them to say it again and then repeat and then try it again. Now, I will also ask the student to make a sentence with the word that they may not be the most familiar with. So I'll say, go ahead, can you make a sentence with code? And then I would say, can you challenge yourself and make a sentence that has both the word code and the word cud? Okay, go ahead, give it a try. Good. Okay, cool. So today we are going to talk about when improving something too early at work can actually create delays. Again, improving, optimization, too early can actually affect the milestone, which means can actually create a delay. So that would be the concept. I realized the other day that these videos even may help a fellow teacher, actually. Let's say a teacher who is teaching business English. Maybe this video can be helpful not only to the student who is learning business English, but to a fellow teacher who is, learning and improving their game at business English teaching. So, question for you to think about. Oh, let me put a little n. Okay. In engineering, what is the difference between making something work and making something perfect? let me repeat the question and I'll put it on board for you for a little bit more clarity. In engineering, what is the difference between making something work and making something perfect? Think about it. Depending on what my student says, I'm going to guide them into today's topic, which is on optimization and milestones. So let's take a look at the key vocab. So optimization and milestone. So a milestone is you're working towards that. Optimization is improving. You're improving what you are already doing. You're improving what you have. So milestone, optimization. And a milestone is another way to say a project checkpoint. A project checkpoint. And then optimization is, it can mean a couple of different things. It can mean faster. It can mean more efficient. It can mean doing it with more clarity. Just different ways to improve something. That's called optimization. Sometimes optimization happens too early, and that's the issue that we are learning today, how to handle that. So let's learn some core language. Core language are typically sentences that you would say often in a situation like this. So a simple sentence like, this may be optimizing too early is something you should try. So go ahead, you give it a try. This may be optimizing too early. Good. Go ahead, say it again. Yep. The two words here, may be, may and be, that gives it a little bit of space for exploration. You're not being hard on this concept. You're not saying like, this is definitely what's going to happen. You are suggesting. So saying the words may be is excellent in this case. Try this one. At this stage, correctness may matter more. At this stage, correctness may matter more. Good. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of definitions. A lot of times in my classes, I like to ask my students to define a certain vocabulary. I think that drives us to more clarity, which drives us to a better understanding of the words of the topic. So first, I want you to explain to me, what does correctness mean? Please define correctness. Yeah, you can say something as simple as working correctly. Something working correctly is correctness. Good. And I would ask them, what's the part of speech? And sometimes some of my students don't know what that means, part of speech. Part of speech is simply if it's a verb, 动词, or a noun, 名词, or an adjective, 形容词. So that is part of speech. Okay. Next, please define optimization. How would you explain optimization? Not optimizing, but optimization. Good. If you said it's to improve something, improve performance, you would be correct. Excellent. Let's keep going. So now I'm going to give you some examples. And examples sometimes can mock real life situations, simulate real life situations, so you can give it a try. So here is scenario 1. A team spends 2 weeks improving the performance before the system works. What is the issue category? For example, by issue category, there's two, right? There's either a milestone goal or milestone work, or optimization. So what's the issue? Again, I'll say this. Actually, let me put this on the board so it's clear for you. Please read the scenario and tell me what is the issue category here. If you said it is optimization, that it optimized too early, that this may be optimizing too early, you are correct. Let's try it again. So scenario 2, the team redesigns the architecture before finishing the first prototype. The team redesigns the architecture before finishing the first prototype. What is a stage mismatch? What stage mismatch exists here? Yes, it's optimizing too early before the milestone is reached, before reaching the milestone. Great, let's do number 3. The third and last scenario of this drill. We have some more later. A manager asks for performance improvements before basic features are stable. Can you tell me what you might say to the manager if the manager asks for this? Something you can try is, at this stage, correctness may matter more. And more than what? More than timeliness, more than speed. So when it's not ready, you can try saying like this. So instead of saying, I don't think it's ready, I don't think it's a good idea, I think it's really bad, that's very emotional. But instead, if you speak like this, more of a system language, you sound calm, you sound in control, you sound professional. You sound like a goddamn senior engineer. Sorry for saying the G word, I guess, I don't know. At this stage, correctness may matter more. At this stage, correctness may matter more. Okay, perfect. Now let's do some more practice drill. And in this practice drill, think of it as before you were answering with one line or even half of a line. Now you can use both of these. You can mix and match. You can expand a little bit. So let's try case scenario 1. The algorithm works but uses too much memory. The team spends 2 weeks reducing memory before finishing test. Please take a look and tell me, how would you respond to this? Good. So obviously I cannot hear your answer. This is a mock lesson, but whatever you did say, if you mentioned keywords like optimizing too early, I would say, yeah, correct. And if you didn't, I would guide you towards saying those words. Let's try another one. Case number 2. A developer spends days cleaning the code style before the feature works. What's the problem? I think this is a stage mismatch, because what stage are they now at and what stage are they doing now? I would also accept this is a speed mismatch. Okay, cool. And this could be, when it comes down to the reason, it could be because of communication. And we have a couple of lessons on communication problems in the previous categories. You can go back in category B. Okay, great. Now let's go a little bit into the next one, which is abstract thinking. So this is something that a lot of my students tell me. Communicate with me tremendously, that they have a bit of a difficulty when it comes to abstract thinking. What does abstract thinking mean? What do you think? If you said something along the lines of the idea instead of the details, the label instead of the detailed information, you're correct. Abstract thinking is the label, the tag, the idea, the concept, the bigger picture. And a lot of the times my students, answer the questions in all these details, very fluent English, comprehensible, but it's another set of skills and often more challenging when you need to go backwards. Instead of telling me all the details, tell me what all these details are about. Is it an optimization issue? Is it a communication issue? Is it a stage mismatch? You see what I'm saying? It's like you have all these details, now label the details. So let's give a very general question actually. So these cases that we did above, what is the general concept behind these problems? What is the general concept behind these problems? If you mentioned a mismatch of some sort, you know, that would be correct. If you mention the issues of optimizing too early, that would be good. Let me ask you, what is the impact of optimizing too early? Let's brainstorm this. What is the impact of optimizing too early? What do you think? Well, here are some possible answers. Delays, wasted effort, missed milestones. Delays, wasted effort, and missed milestones. Good. Okay, so now we will do a little summary. This is where we do a bit of callback, where we can go back to some of the information that we learned in this class, some of the class materials, and then see if we can answer some of these summary questions. Number one, what is premature optimization? What is premature optimization? Number two, why does premature optimization delay projects? And number three, when there is a delay in projects because of premature optimization, what phrase could you use with the manager? If you look here, which one of these phrases maybe feel more natural to you? Cool. That is a wrap for this class. If you want homework, then I will challenge you to use this structure here to write 3 statements. You're going to identify the problem, explain the stage mismatch, and then explain the impact of this stage mismatch. And key phrases like optimizing too early, correctness may matter more than speed. Things that we learned in this class would be excellent to do that in your homework. If you did your homework, you can find my WeChat below, send me a message, send me an email. Also, you can leave it in the comments and I will check. I read all of my messages and comments to the best of my abilities, but mostly I read all of them. Thank you for watching, my dear students. I will see you again next class. Bye!